Hi everybody, it's me, the dog counselor, Dean Miller, back for another round of some dog training advice, tips, some conversation about how you should teach your dogs. Let me get a little adjustment on that shot there, trying to be a little Spielbergian here. This is my dog Henry in the back, right there, that's Henry. Henry is my street dog. I found him in the street about 10, 11 years ago. He was running down the street toward my car, and he's lived with me ever since. He's chewing a chew bone right now, one of his favorite things. And anyway, when I picked him up, he came to my house. I tried to find his owners for a long time, never could. And it turned out while he was with me, he never did anything wrong. So I figured, well, might as well let him stay. Henry's been through a lot of adventures. Maybe one day I'll talk you through some of my dogs. I have 4 dogs, and I can talk you through maybe all of their adventures and how they came to live with me, and maybe some stories about my dogs. But today I want to talk about training and advice for teaching, which is what we're here for. I am the dog counselor, and I say that because I do home visits. I come to people's homes for about 90 minutes at a time, and I counsel them. I counsel them about their dogs' behavior issues, training. I do everything from simple behavior, sit, stay, lie down, all the way up to hardcore aggression, or any kind of behavioral problems or issues. I'm very, very adaptable to whatever it is your dog needs are. When people call me and they say, I need a trainer, I need a dog trainer, I am not your typical sign you up for 6 weeks of classes and hold treats and get your dog to sit and stay. I don't use clickers and all of that stuff. I'm really a person that really gets to the point with my training. You call me up, you tell me what your problem is, and I'll come over and fix it. Now, in between there, I sort of counsel you about how dog psychology works, how their brain is wired, what I see going on with your dog and their particular personality and your home life and that kind of thing. So I do more than just train. I counsel you on how to bring you and the dog to understanding each other more and having a beautiful relationship and communicate in a way that you guys understand. Often training and working with a dog is like learning a different language. A lot of people, I had somebody ask me last week, should I say no or should I say off? Should I say come or should I say here? The words are less important. Just choose words and stick with them. Don't change them all the time. The words are less important. I was watching a video this morning about a dog that was in Japan, and the dog was trained to hide its face and look up and do all these cute little tricks. And they were giving the commands in Japanese. So, obviously there are dogs in Japan and Mexico and Russia and England and everywhere. So each of these dogs is learning words in different languages. I would tell you that it's not the word, it's the attitude, it's the sound, it's the tone, it's the body language. It's so many things that you use in addition to that word. Now, the fact that dogs learn our words is actually kind of a miracle. They don't even have the part of the brain that makes verbal language. If you'll notice, I know people will tell me, there are going to be people writing in already that tell me they've seen a dog say mama or something like that, and yes, okay, maybe that's happened, but that's a miracle too, because the dogs don't even have the part of the brain that make verbal language. So therefore, when we're yelling and using lots of words and shouting at our dogs, it's very ineffective. There are much more effective ways to communicate with your dog, and words are last on their list of communication. Although by living with us crazy humans, they do learn our words over time. They learn commands, they learn the gist of what we're saying. But you're not going to hear your dog speak a whole paragraph to you in English. It's just probably not going to happen. If it does, write to me, call me. I would love to help you market that. But anyway, in the meantime, Henry and I are going to talk to you about some training. And today I was going to talk a little bit about equipment. A lot of people come to me and they say, we're going to train on Friday, for example, and they'll say, what equipment should I have? Should I have a choke collar? Should I have this? Should I have that? And it is my belief that training a dog is less about the equipment and more about your relationship to them. And what I mean by that is your dog is going to listen to you and obey you and want to work with you if you are someone they respect. And if you are someone they don't respect, they're going to, not be as apt to comply. So when we use a tool, a choke chain, a pinch collar, whatever, I'm not saying there's not a time and a place for those, but they are the method of last resort, in my opinion. I believe in using the least amount of correction necessary to achieve the behavior that we're looking for. Positive rewards are a really great way to go. I believe in a balanced relationship in training. You know, you can't just have positive and you can't just have negative. And if you're too harsh on the negative side, you're going to really damage your dog or betray their trust. And so we don't want to be too harsh or negative. However, just like raising a child, a dog needs to know what's right, what's wrong, what's positive, what's negative. And in fact, they're much more black and white than humans. So we don't want to make this very gray. We don't want to be saying, you know, I told you to get off the couch, now get over here and lie down and come over here and eat and let's walk and get in your kennel and now let's go for a walk. All of these things just make the lesson so convoluted. So what I suggest is we get down to one-word commands, sounds that are dominant, like a dominant dog. So if our commands, our corrections sound like, no, hey, come. You have more power to them. So I'm getting off track here, but we want to have a balanced form of correction, positive rewards and corrective negative reinforcement if the dog is doing something you don't want them to do. Now, I really want to address this idea of appropriate negative correction. When you correct your dog, if you are mean, abusive, harsh, too loud, too aggressive, just like a kid, you're betraying that trust. All we want to do is convey the message that what they're doing is not acceptable in the least amount of force necessary. So if I say to my dog, nope, and they just stop, then why would I go, no? You know, if I say, hey, and they just quit, why would I go over there and pop them with my hand or something? It just doesn't make any sense. I often say, you know, if your child spilled milk, you wouldn't go over there and scream and punch them in the head and say, don't spill milk. You'd say, hey, be more careful next time. Let me clean this up. Let me show you how to hold the glass. Let me be more positive. You'd be strict or firm, but you wouldn't be mean. You wouldn't be unfair. So I see a lot of people giving unfair corrections, over-the-top corrections, corrections that are, in a sense, the owner venting their frustration. You know, this happens a lot with animal abuse. People are frustrated with what the dog's done. They've pooped in the house or they've chewed up a shoe, and that owner vents their frustration onto the dog. Well, the dog's just simply being a dog. Honestly, the fact that your dog doesn't go to the bathroom in the house and doesn't destroy your stuff, that's kind of a miracle of nature, because they're actually going against their nature to comply with a human way of living. If your dog is being really well behaved in the house, your dog is denying his own nature to a certain extent in order to make you happy because they love you so much. So for you to scream at a mistake or be frustrated or yell or worse, hit them, that's really, really unfair to a dog. In my experience, many misbehaviors come about with dogs because we've waited so long to address the issues. You know, when a child goes to nursery school or kindergarten or first grade or second grade or third grade, that's when they're learning to be social, to be appropriate, to learn how to have correct social skills and how to be in human society. And if we wait till they're 14, 15 years old to start teaching them how to be polite, how to use the bathroom, how to behave in a class, well, then we've waited too late, and it's going to take 10 times as much effort as it would have if we had started when they were 2 and 4 and 6 and 8 and 10. Well, your dog has these development stages too. They just happen to happen in shorter increments and earlier. So, for example, when your dog's a year to a year and a half, they're like a young adult, an older teenager, young adult. So by the time they've reached a year to a year and a half, they should have learned all the basics about life and social skills and what's expected of them. Hey, buddy, stay there. Sit. Henry, no, Henry, we're going to stay here. Henry, sit. Buddy, sit. I'm having a little trouble with Henry. Come here. Henry, come on. Lie down, buddy. Let's lie down, okay? Take your leash off. Henry's a little bit older and a little bit more stiff in his movements, and so I give him a lot of leeway. Oh, he's going to go upstairs. He's not into being on TV. Okay, see ya, Henry. Here's what I do with Henry, and I hope you guys will forgive me as a trainer. Henry's about 12 years old, and he's starting to get stiff in his joints, and he's starting to get stiff when he sits. And so I'm lowering my expectations of him, just like I lower my expectations of a baby puppy. You know, everyone has different rules in their house. Everyone has a different relationship with their dog. But to me, Henry's in his golden years, and if he doesn't feel like sitting there and being on TV right now, by all means, he doesn't have to do it. Now, my other dogs, I have dogs that are 2 years old that are absolutely nuts sometimes, and some of you may have seen them last week on this program, on the Wolf Driver. Those two dogs I have higher expectations of because they're young adults and they can be a little bit obnoxious sometimes. Anyway, I'm digressing here. Let's get back to, where was I? So social skills with dogs. So if you have a puppy 8 weeks old, 2 months old, 6 months old, those are the times to be really working with your dog, training them, getting them ready for life and how to interact with other dogs and how to interact with people, how to be polite at home. So those are the times to really address issues, not to wait till they're 2 years old and 5 years old. I guess I should be thankful that people have problems with their dogs because I would be out of business if they didn't. But people often call me. You know, somebody called me. I did a session 2 days ago, and this lady had 2 dogs, and they were 10 years old. And these dogs, she said, for the past 4 to 5 years have been urinating in the house, have been obnoxious, have taken over, and she's really done nothing about it from the age of 5 or 6 to the age of 10. And I just think that's unbelievable. But we got things under control pretty quickly. I showed her some things to do and how to change that pattern. And I saw changes in the dogs right away, because if you train according to my methods are based on the way dogs communicate with each other. So when you go into your home, when you go to a home with dogs and you use my advice, the dog understands what we're doing right away. They get it, they key into it, they comply. And it's getting the owner to understand what I'm talking about and how to get that dog to understand. And will they apply it after I leave? That's the key. Really, it's sort of like your dog is speaking Portuguese and you're speaking French, and we're just crisscrossing. We're not speaking the same language. So I encourage people to learn that language and learn about your dog as much or more than you worry about what tool am I using, what method am I using, am I following the strict guidelines of this training book I got, or it's really more about a relationship. You establish the rules in a way a dog understands, with love and firmness, discipline and structure, as well as affirmation and rewards. So we balance that relationship. Just like a kid shouldn't get ice cream all day, they also shouldn't be punished all day. A kid can't be grounded for a year, but they might be grounded for 3 days or something. Also, they shouldn't, play video games all day. They should read books and go to school and do homework. So it's a balance. But I'm repeating myself and I'm going on and on. I'm going to look up here for just a second. Before I do, I want to remind you that I am on the Wolf Driver channel, and I'm here twice a week, Thursday evenings at 8 Central Time and Sunday evenings at 6 Central Time, to give advice, to talk, to answer questions, to exchange with you guys. So please join us twice a week here on the Wolf Driver channel. You can see the logo right here. And if you're watching us, you found the Wolf Driver channel. So here we are. Come back and visit us. And there's lots of other great programming on the Wolf Driver. He has some really great things where he goes out, and I think he calls it mushing with the dogs, where just watch his stuff. It's really amazing. He takes these adventures at night where he drives around with the dogs and they pull him in this wagon thing that's really cool. Then you have Wolf Driver News with Britt Savage. You have an animal communicator on one show. You have authors. You have all kinds of great stuff. Of course, my show is the best. I'm kidding. But I do give a lot of advice about training, and I love to talk to you guys. And if you want to talk to me further, I do Skype sessions, phone sessions, and I do travel for training. So if you want to book me to travel somewhere, I'm happy to do that as well. You can find me at thedogcounselor.com. Now I'm going to look at some of these things. I have to get way up in the phone to do this. Let's see here. Let's see. I see. Okay, so Lois Gordon here sent in a very interesting question, which I think is something I want to address right now, and then I'll come back to what I was talking about before. Lois Gordon writes in and says, my dog is a Spitz. He is so lovable, to me and my husband, but aggressive to outsiders, growls, barks constantly, and does not let up. What is or to do? Well, okay. First of all, until I meet that individual dog, I can't 100% tell you what the advice is to fix it. I have to interact with the dog and find out which of my techniques and methods are going to work. I can come to that conclusion very quickly in a couple of minutes. And then once I've established that with you guys, then we'll work on it and we'll solve these issues. But here's basically, and I can't 100% tell you if I haven't met the dog, but from what you're describing, what it appears to me is that the roles are not clear in the family. If the dog is loving and lovable to you and sweet and then aggressive to outsiders, my inclination is to say that he's protective. And then I would ask, why is he protective? Well, first of all, it's because he loves you, for sure. But also, it's often because we don't display this sense of being an alpha dog or a leader that can control ourselves, that can take care of ourselves. Often the dog has this view of life that is, well, you know, I love you, thanks for the food, thanks for the shelter and all the good cuddles and everything, but you've never demonstrated to me that you're tougher than me and that you can kill a grizzly bear. So when something threatening comes around, it's my job to handle it. I'll handle it, right? So we don't want to turn that job over to the dog. We want to demonstrate to the dog that we're the parents and that we know how to handle ourselves, and we don't have to put that responsibility on the dog to protect us. So I can show you in a very simple manner how to convey to the dog that you're the alpha and that it's your job and not his. But of course I have to work with you and the dog. I'd have to talk with you and meet the dog and see what the situation is. So if you'd like to book me for a training session, I'm at thedogcounselor.com. Check me out. I also want to talk, let you know about my book. I have a book called A Dog's Way, which is available on Amazon.com, also at my website, thedogcounselor.com. But A Dog's Way is less a training manual and more of a book about how dogs change us and how we change through our relationship with them. It's helpful in understanding their minds and how they work. So if you want to read about that, it's a great read. So let's get back on track here for what I was talking about. I want to talk about equipment, okay? Equipment for training. Oftentimes when people call me, they'll say, what should I have? Do I need a choke collar? Do I need a pinch collar? Do I need a halter? And I say, well, let's start with the minimum necessary to achieve the results we want. So I start with a regular collar and a regular leash. I don't want to be harsh with the dog. The collar and the leash just help me to show the dog that I'm in control, not in a mean way, but in a way that they can't run off or dodge away from me or get 20 feet away and, you know, stay out of reach. And also it gives me access to quick corrections. But I don't use that leash or that collar harshly at all. And if a dog is just a sort of normal, there's no such thing as normal, I guess, but if the dog is very receptive and open and socialized and good with humans, I can tend to do pretty well with just a collar and a leash. With younger dogs, I often use treats to begin with, because like I always say, if a kid's 3 years old, I might say, if you clean your room, you get a lollipop. You know, if you eat your vegetables, you'll get some ice cream. I don't do that with a 30-year-old man. I don't say, hey, eat your vegetables and I'll give you some ice cream, right? So when the dog is an adult dog, I use a lot less treats. When the dog is a baby, I use treats to sort of bridge the gap and reward the dog into behaviors. Not for corrections at all, though, by any means. And I'm very gentle with my corrections, especially with young dogs. But there are those cases where you run into a dog that is hardcore aggressive, maybe dangerous, maybe so wild that it scares people. And in these cases, you know, there are many that might disagree with me out there, but those cases can get into what we call a life and death situation, especially for the dog. So the dog may be dangerous to other humans, and if that's the case, nobody loves dogs more than me, but I'm going to always err on the side of human safety. And also, there comes a time when it gets beyond your choice. If that dog hurts someone, the city or the county will take your dog away from you. So it will not be your choice, and you don't want your dog to be taken away or put down. So if a dog has reached a level of hardcore aggression, or we need to hit another level of correction, I do use other tools. But I cannot stress this enough. Don't use higher level tools, higher level restrictive tools or corrective tools on your dog without consulting a professional. Please do not use spike collars, choke chains, electric collars, all of these things. Please do not use these unless you have been properly trained in how to use them, because they can cause a lot of danger and a lot of problems. Now I'm going to show you what a spike collar looks like. Now to a lot of people this looks terrifying, right? This looks like a tool for torture, okay? And in the wrong hands, that's exactly what it is. Here comes Henry because he thinks we're going for a walk, I guess. But in the wrong hands, a spike collar is a tool for torture. I'll tell you how it's designed. It's designed with curved spikes like this. Can you see the curved spikes? And the reason we have these curved spikes is because they curve inward on the dog. When you pull on it, it curves inward, and it creates the feeling of a bite. Creates like a dog being bitten, okay? Now, you can imagine if I put this on a dog and I leave it on, or it's too tight, or I choke it up on the dog, you know, that is going to feel like I'm being constantly bitten, okay? It's painful. And pull too hard or too often and you can actually puncture a dog's neck or throat. So I do not take these lightly. I do not use them lightly. I use them only in the cases of really heavy-duty correctiveness that I need to correct. They can be used in what we call a safety mode. You turn them inside out, you put them on like this, and they actually become like a choke chain or a simpler kind of a collar. So that's in safety mode if the spikes are on the outside, okay? But when they're on the inside, they work like a bite, and you have to be extremely careful when you use them. Now, I went to a house the other day, and they had a spike collar on their dog, and that thing was too small and too tight. It was on the dog like this, which is in essence like being bitten continuously. It's a terrible, terrible thing. So what I always do is I always loosen this. This needs to be this needs to be loose, okay? And when you use it, you tug it once, and it goes back to loose. Now, in the wrong hands, this is a torture device, like I said. But if let's say, for example, I have a giant Rottweiler that has torn into children or something, which I've had cases like this, that is not something to mess around with. And if a dog is on 10 and not listening, maybe this is a tool, but it is the very last tool that I resort to. Same with an electric collar or a shock collar. I think those are hardcore tools only to be used by professionals and only in life and death situations or biting or cruelty cases. Okay? I'm going to give you an alternative that's really, really more humane and really much more positive than that. I recommend to my clients, and I use a lot, what's called a Sporn halter. It's made by the company Sporn. Okay? It fits over the dog like this. The head goes through here like this. This is like a collar. Okay, so this fits on the dog's neck just like a collar, just a regular collar. See, that blue part is like a regular collar. These connect under the arms with these padding, the padding and the softness. So these go under the arms, and then this attaches over the head and between the shoulder blades. So what this is for, unlike a regular halter. Now a regular halter gets put on and a dog begins to use their shoulders for leverage and pull you around, and they have a lot more power with a regular halter. But with this halter, you tug it, and it gives a little bit of tug under the arms, which is an unpleasant sensation for a dog, certainly not mean or cruel. And again, this should not be tied tight. It should be loose, just hanging there like a loose collar and a loose halter. But when you need to pull and you say, nope, quit, tug and release, just a quick tug and release, that pulls under the arms and gives a little bit of a correction. So I think this is far more humane, far more doable for the average person who has not been educated on how to use higher pressure tools that I'm not real fond of. And this will correct pulling. It's nice for little corrective moves because the dog doesn't like the sensation, but it's certainly not painful, certainly doesn't hurt them. If you tie it too tight or where it's tight against their body, then when you tug, it has no effect because it's just like a halter staying tight. It needs to be loose and a quick tug, just a quick tug. So those are a couple of tools you can think about or consider. If your dog is wonderful and beautiful and easy to train, I suggest just a regular collar and a regular leash. I'm much more Um, I have a much higher approval of a regular collar and a regular leash. Again, if you want to contact me for advice or discuss further, I'm at thedogcounselor.com. My name is Dean Miller, and I'm happy to help. I'm seeing all these comments go by. Let me see what other comments I have here. Let me see here. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, somebody said Henry's back. That's true. Now, there are people who say, I'm getting some of these comments. Let's see. Okay. I'm seeing all kinds of comments here about this collar, which I agree is like a torture device. If used wrong, they are like a torture device. So if you're not going to have a professional give you advice, definitely don't use a pinch collar. It's not the path of first resort. It's the path of last resort. But if it's life and death for the dog, I do move up to other methods that solve the problem to keep the dog alive and to keep people safe. I did see somebody here that wrote something I think is really cool. This person said, I provide in-home training only. So do I. I provide in-home training, although I do teach seminars and travel. But this person, Jerry Calvi, says, the majority of problems I find begin at the door. That is absolutely true. I want to just that is a very good point, Jerry, and I really want to talk about this. Dogs are very big on first impressions. So when you first walk through the door of a house, that dog is sizing you up fast. Are you safe? Are you not safe? Are you good? Are you bad? Are you here to love me? Are you here to hurt me? That's why you see a lot of chaos with dogs when the door first opens, because they're trying to establish what are we to each other. What's our situation? And humans and dogs have a different agenda. A human agenda is for people to think we're nice, right? Hi, how are you? Come on in, hey. And for us, we're escalating the situation. We're noisy. Hi, come on in. So the dog, it creates excitement in the dog. But a dog's agenda is often to make sure this thing coming through the door isn't going to kill me, right? Or, it's not going to hurt me. Or for some dogs, they're so loved and spoiled that they think, oh, this person's here to see me and love on me. So those first impressions are very important with your dog. And when people first come in, if they have a demeanor of neutralness, they're going to have more luck with the dog listening to them than if they come in and gush over the dog and bend over and go, oh, hi, because that looks very submissive to a dog. And it sets the tone for being submissive to the dog the rest of the time you're there. Think about when you first enter a house, it's like a handshake. If I meet you and give you a dead fish handshake, I say, hi, it's nice to meet you. You're going to make a judgment about me and what kind of person I am. If I say, hi, how are you? It's nice to meet you, and give you a firm handshake, look you in the eye, you make a different judgment about me. And dogs are exactly the same way. How do you enter a house? What are you presenting? Am I dominant? Am I submissive? Am I neutral? Am I afraid? Am I confident? So, this is a great lesson for life, and I actually talk about it in my book. I talk about this, the way dogs change us, in my book. And if you start to tap into this body language and the way you use your voice and first impressions and the impressions you're leaving on your dog with who you are and what you present, it starts to change the way you carry yourself in life. I mean, I used to be a very shy kid, an introverted kid, but the more I've worked with dogs and used my voice and used my body, I find myself moving more comfortably, moving more confidently, speaking more confidently. So dogs give us great gifts. They're beautiful. They're amazing. Nobody loves dogs more than me. Let me check for one. Maybe there's one more comment we can address here. Man, I cannot believe how many people are on here. I think we're growing our audience week after week. I'm also noticing that my hair's out of place. So please, please, please join us, and please tell your friends and everybody, and share the Wolf Driver channel. There's so much programming on here and so much great stuff to find out about dogs. If you need more advice, or you would like to email me, talk to me, set up a Skype appointment, a phone appointment, I do Skype appointments and phone appointments to address training if you're not in the Nashville area. If you are in the Nashville, Tennessee area, I am available to come to you, and I work in your home for 90-minute sessions. And there are very few problems I can't solve. So please, please contact me, and I'd be glad to help. Let's see, what else was I going to say? Please join us again. The next show is Thursday night, 8 o'clock Central Time. We're going to have more of my dogs. There's Henry, he's back. And more advice about training, more advice about anything you want to talk about. Please have your questions ready or join us for the conversation. I really enjoy hearing from you guys. Thank you for coming by and watching The Dog Counselor on the Wolf Driver channel. I hope you guys have a great week. Great 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. Golly, I forgot to say happy 4th of July. So, okay, I will talk to you soon, and I hope you have a great 4th of July. Bye, guys.